Welcome back to another one of my videos, guys. Today, we're going to be going over the career of Dafran, the rise, the fall. We're going to dissect his professional career from start to finish. We're going to discuss my personal experiences with him and where he is today. And then lastly, we'll answer the question, is he good enough for the Overwatch League? But before we get into this video, I do want to announce that Kungarna is doing a fiery giveaway, guys. What you could win is a new era Overwatch snapback, a Overwatch League t-shirt size extra large, and a signed Kungarna jersey by Baby Bay and myself. There are multiple ways to enter, so be sure to subscribe and check out the Gleam link down below for more details. It'll be at the top of the description. Alright, let's get right into it, boys. So first, we'll start off with Dafran's professional Overwatch career. Dafran has only played under one team and has only played with 5 players in his entire career. Yes, his career might have been short-lived, but it was nothing less of spectacular. Before he was a pro, he was a ladder player in EU. Grinding and climbing the ranks, he ended up being scouted by Selfless Gaming. On January 31st, Selfless announced the additions to the roster, Kresnik on main tank, Legit RC as head coach, and Dafran. As well as announcing the new additions, they also announced that they would be living in Atlanta in a team house. And this was actually really surprising to a lot of the community, because not many teams had houses at the time, and considering that Selfless had been a tier 2 team and never really showed that they could compete with top teams, it was definitely not expected. The additions Selfless made were decent, but nobody had high expectations for them, because Selfless had not been successful in the Overwatch scene yet. They would debut this roster in the tier 2 tournaments. From February 6th to the 13th, they would play in 3 tournaments, 2 AG weeklies, and a Cal Open. They ended up placing 3rd through 4th in all 3 of them, losing to random unknown teams like Burgermen, Nameless, and Ronin. It was clear that the team was still going through a learning phase. They were obviously trying a lot of things out. They would have Dafran, Sinatra, and Emong flexing to almost every hero possible with random combinations. One game you would see Dafran on Zarya and Emong on Soldier. Then the next, it was the exact opposite with Dafran on Soldier and Emong on Zarya. Along with that, they were clearly experimenting playstyles. As one fight, they would play extremely aggressive, and the next, they would play passive. With being a new team, they clearly struggled to find their identity. And after losing these 3 tournaments, they still looked like an average tier 2 team. 5 days after their most recent loss, they would sign up for their 4th tournament, the Enter the Arena Overwatch tournament, organized by Razer. This tournament would feature some good tier 1 teams, like Hammers, who would eventually turn into LG Evil. They were fresh off a monthly Melee win, as well as teams like Renegades, Team Liquid, and more. Here's a clip with Game of Storm, who was casting the Inter Overwatch Arena tournament and also casted the Cal Open and the 2 AG weeklies they played in prior.
Not connecting right away there from Jake. Definitely have their work cut out for them in this best of 3 Herix. And I mean, going into this matchup, you gotta agree, we definitely thought Hammers had the upper hand in this one. They were coming off a pretty big win streak into this, and Selfless, a team that had, you know, a couple of roster adjustments as of late. And coming into today just didn't look coming into this tournament didn't look super strong by any means, given their recent failures in even weekly tournaments. They dropped to teams, I believe they lost to Nameless a couple weeks ago, and then last week they lost to Ronin 0-2, and then they turned it around yesterday, beating Team Liquid and Denial Esports. So really curious to see what they're able to do that they weren't able to do a couple weeks ago when they dropped those matches.
You can hear him talking about Selfless's shortcomings in their previous tournaments. This was in their semi-finals match against Hammers, who were on a major winning streak at the time. During this match, Selfless went from looking like an average tier 2 team to competing with one of the best teams in North America at the time. And we would consistently see them pushing and rushing into the spawn door of Hammers. Now this was extremely shocking, especially considering how they were playing, because at the time, no one expected Selfless to even come close to competing with Hammers. But after insane showing, they took a 2-1 victory. In the next match, they played against Renegades in the finals. In a very similar series like the one against Hammers, they would take it away with a 3-1 victory, where they showcased more of their aggressiveness and weird playstyle. This tournament was only the beginning of the new Selfless era. They would end up going on a crazy 37-game win streak tear. For the next 30 days, they won 8 tournaments in a row against teams like Tempo, Splice, Team Liquid, CLG, Denial, Gale Force Esports, and more. This would lead them to their biggest tournament yet, the Alienware Monthly Melee March. Going into this tournament, everyone was really intrigued to see how Selfless would stack up against some of the best teams in the world. With every major North American team competing aside from Envious, they finally got their chance to play against the best North America had to offer. They were placed in a group with Immortals, Runaway, and LG Evil. After spending most of these maps spawn camping, they would finish the group 3-0. They would then move into the playoffs, where they would face FaZe. They would take an easy victory as well, which put them in the upper bracket finals against Rogue. This would be their final test. If they were able to take out Rogue, it would cement Selfless as being one of the best teams NA could ever offer. Selfless came out in the series firing hard, with 2 easy map wins early in the series, making it 2-0. But in crazy fashion, Rogue would slowly climb back into the series, and before we knew it, it was going to a Game 5. With Selfless trying their hardest to close the series out, Rogue just wouldn't be put away. They won it in a reverse sweep, 3-2. Here you can see stats of this match. Dafran played absolutely out of his mind, completely outclassing every player in the match. And despite this incredible performance, they were still not able to close out the series. It was right though, they could still come back up to the finals. They moved through the loser bracket and faced Rogue in the grand final. This time again, they would come out strong and they would take a 2-1 series lead. But as Rogue did before, they clawed their way back in. Their will to win seemed too strong. Selfless would end up losing the next 2 maps, and they would lose the series 2-3 for the second time in a row. Selfless and Dafran came extremely close to defeating Rogue, but they just weren't able to achieve the goal that they so desperately wanted of being the best in North America. Back-to-back 2-3 defeats when they had the lead must have been tough on the entire team. The next tournament Selfless would end up competing in was the Pit. Selfless would clean sweep their group, going 5-0 and only dropping 1 map throughout. They would end up playing Rogue once again in the upper bracket finals of the Pit. With their sights set on revenge, Selfless came out swinging once again and they took a lead for the 3rd time in a row. They were up 2-1. But again, for some reason, Selfless just couldn't close the series out against Rogue. For the next 2 maps, Selfless looked stagnant and they couldn't make any plays. Dafran looked like he was getting shut down, and Rogue clawed their way back into the series and took the victory. After this, they would go into the loser bracket finals against Team Liquid and actually lose 2-1. So this would be the end of their run in the Pit. It just seemed like at this point, Rogue had Selfless's number. And it was clear that it was getting to them, especially after their loss to Team Liquid. But with another opportunity looming in the air, 3 days after their loss in the Pit, the April monthly melee, Selfless would end up being put in a group against Eastwind, NRG, and Immortals. To many surprise, Selfless would actually end up losing games to an unknown team called Eastwind, and as well to Immortals. After these surprising losses to Team Liquid, Eastwind, and Immortals, it seemed like Selfless might be going downhill. They would end up being placed at the bottom of the losers bracket and would end up having to climb all the way back up to the finals just to get another shot at Rogue. And the next day, they would do just that though. They would end up climbing and crawling their way all the way to the grand final, where they would end up playing Rogue once again for the 4th time. This would also be Selfless's last chance to prove everyone wrong and claim victory, because Rogue would be leaving North America for Korea to play in Apex Season 3. The stakes extremely high. Selfless once again would come out strong, and they took another 2-1 lead in the series. With another lead, it was still so hard to doubt Rogue would lose. With their will to win, it was just impossible to go against them. But there was also this feeling of that there was no way Selfless would let this one go again. They would not let Rogue come back for the 4th time in a row. It just could not happen. I was torn on which storyline to believe. Was Selfless finally going to do it? Or was Rogue going to do what they already did 3 times previously? But as most of us already know, just like the other 3 games, almost perfectly written in the stars, Rogue came back and won the series for the 4th time in a row, and for the last time Selfless would ever be able to try to beat them. I mean, Selfless had to have been demoralized, heartbroken, devastated. I mean, whatever depressing word we can think of, that is what they must have felt after this loss. I know what it's like to lose big matches, guys. I've played in big tournaments, and I have lost these crucial games. but I couldn't imagine the feeling these players must have felt after losing 4 times in a row with a lead over Rogue. This would have put them up with envy as one of the greatest teams in North America of all time. They could have been competing in Apex. They could have went on to be the best team in the entire world. But because they couldn't get past this one little hump of defeating Rogue, we will never really know if their potential was that high or where they could have gone. So yeah, that was the last time they ever played Rogue. They would go on to lose the next 2 tournaments they competed in, most notably the May Monthly, where we could see Dafran clearly giving up and throwing against Yikes. And then the very last tournament they played was the Rumble in May. They would actually end up winning this one, and it would be the last tournament Dafran ever played. Ending up going 13-1 in maps throughout the entire tournament, it was a perfect way for Dafran to go out on top. But, of course, Rogue wasn't there, so they weren't exactly on top. Okay, now that I've gone over Dafran's short but incredible run on Selfless as a pro, I'm going to go over my personal experiences with him. You guys might not know this, but I actually scrimmed against Selfless a decent amount when Dafran played for them. I first ran into their spawn camping strategy in a warm-up scrim for the first tournament they ever won, the Inter Overwatch Arena by Razor. My team was taken off guard. We were thinking in our heads, WTF, how is this working? There's no way they're going to do this in the tournament. After literally getting rolled on 5 maps in a row, they ended the block 30 minutes early because we weren't providing enough competition to warm them up for the tournament. After seeing them win the tournament too, we tried our best to schedule as many blocks with them as we could. This way, we could learn their playstyle and try to counter it. We would then end up competing against Selfless 3 days later in the Rivalcade NA Weekly #1, where they were even more relentless. My team was left flabbergasted with how insane Dafran was playing. Like literally, I've never played against one player in my entire career where I was like, oh my god, this guy is the absolute best. I can't do anything. Going up against a French soldier was the hardest player on any hero to play against. It's not Effect on Tracer, it's not Taimo on Widow, not Unco on Zen, Soon on Tracer, Shadowbird on Genji. I keep going on and naming players that I've played against. Dafran on Soldier was the hardest thing in all of Overwatch to play against. My team would spend hours after scrims analyzing VODs of Selfless playing and watching Dafran and trying to figure out on how we could counter them. We just couldn't comprehend how they got so good out of nowhere. They were literally just an average tier 2 team a couple weeks ago. Nothing made sense. After all this analyzing and practicing, we would always just end up coming to the solution that Dafran was the best player to ever touch the game. Playing against him was like playing a ghost. 1 second he's in one spot hitting you in the head with every single shot, and then the next second he's gone and he's shooting you in the back. Boom, you're dead. Nothing you can do. From his aim to his movement, it was just incredible. After Selfless beat my team in that Rivalcade, we decided to take time off of tournaments to rethink and rebuild our team from strategy to players. I finally got another chance to play them though, 2 months later in April in the monthly Rumble. And to my team's surprise, this was one of the closest matches we ever played. It was extremely close, with them beating us on the first map, King's Row, and then us beating them on the second map, Gibraltar. We went into the third map, Dorado, to see who would win the series. This map was incredibly close. We were steamrolling them through first and second, and we got to third with 3 minutes and 30 seconds left to cap halfway. We were unable to close it out. We lost on the very last fight with only a meter left to cap the point. It felt really good to have an extremely close match with them, but I still can't shake that they were only playing worse because they were going through stuff internally and they were fresh off their 4th loss against Rogue. This would end up being the last time I got to compete in a match against Dafran in a tournament. I did still get to scrim them a few times, and as a team, it seemed that they were just getting worse and worse. And with every scrim, Dafran seemed more human. To this day, I still believe that those 4 losses to Rogue were the downfall of Dafran and Selfless. If Dafran had beaten Rogue, he would have proved that he was the best player in the world and on the best team in North America, and they would have never gone downhill and lost to Yikes. Selfless could have gone on to be one of the greatest teams NA ever had, but instead, they just fell hard. And as Selfless fell, Dafran fell, and he fell much harder. From throwing live in tournaments against Yikes to throwing on stream and ranked, Dafran clearly did not care anymore. I don't know exactly what caused Dafran to throw games on stream. Some say he didn't know or understand what he was doing. Me personally, I think Dafran was extremely burnt out of Overwatch and playing with Selfless. Dafran wanted out. He wanted to be free. He wanted to do things, but he couldn't. He was trapped in some house in Atlanta playing Overwatch 14 hours a day. Sure, I don't know exactly what he wanted to do. Maybe he wanted to see his family, have a real social life, or maybe he just wanted to go back to the simple life of working at McDonald's. I don't know. But one thing I do know is that there is no way someone that amazing would not understand how heavy the consequences would be for his actions. Some have talked about the demons Dafran faced mentally, and I truly believe he just wanted a break, and that's exactly what he got. Blizzard would end up laying down the law on him, banning him from competing in Contenders Season 0 and Season 1. He was also banned for the entirety of Season 5 Ranked and other competitive tournaments. This would lead to Dafran taking a long break. He returned in Ranked somewhere around October and started his stream up about 3 weeks ago in December. He has gained a legion of fans, and he seems to be enjoying the life of a streamer and seems to be having a lot more fun. I wouldn't say he is the same player he was before though. Of course, a long break is going to have its effects on his gameplay, but I think with more time and serious practice, Dafran could easily return to his prime. So to answer your question, is Dafran still good enough for the Overwatch League? Yes, he is, and he could even be the best player if he surpasses his previous peaks. He has though stated since he isn't interested in playing pro anymore, and he wants to see where his stream leads him. His stream's doing great so far. In 3 weeks, he's already reached 2,000 subscribers. He seems to have a bright future. If he ever does decide to go pro again, I will be one of the biggest supporters of him. A return of Dafran would shake up the scene like no other, and if he surpasses his prime, he could really do some damage in the league. All in all, I think Dafran's a great player. I love watching his stream. You guys should definitely check him out, and that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed this journey down Dafran's career, and maybe I was able to give you some insight that you guys might not have had before. Be sure to check out the giveaway down below in the description, guys. Give the video a like, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.